DWRB News FM 103.9. Ang himpilang magbibigay ng mga impormasyon sa larangan ng edukasyon, kalusugan, pangsakahan, kapaligiran, musika, natatanging kaalaman, at mga pinakahuli at sariwang balita sa loob at labas ng bansa. DWRB News FM. Ang himpilang ikaw ang una. Ikaw ang una.
Planning and decision making. With GUS-PH, local video scientific information is just a click, turning science into practical solution for community safety and development. Our information, education, and communication campaigns and vulnerability and risk assessments also continue to empower local governments and communities. By communicating technical findings in clear and practical terms, we help ensure that geoscience becomes more than just data. It becomes a guide for action. This forum is another step in that direction. It is a space for scientists, partners, engineers, and policymakers to share knowledge and to align our efforts toward a common goal to reduce risk and build resilient communities in the Marikina River Basin. As Regional Director of NGG Regional Office Transport and Marsol, I take great pride in our strong partnership with local government and our province. Together, we have worked on hazard assessments, groundwater studies, and capacity building initiatives that strengthen local planning and preparedness. These efforts reflect our shared vision, development that is grounded in science and guided by safety. Let us remember that the geologic reality space is a shared obstacle. There are truths that guide us. When we understand them, we can plan better, build smarter, and live more safely. Sa tulong ng agham at pagkakaisa ng lahat ng sektor, kaya kaya natin gawin mas ligtas at mas matataw ang ating komunidad. On behalf of MDB Regional Office Calabarzon, I thank our organizing partners, our speakers, and all participants for your commitment to advancing geoscience and resilience in the Marikina River Basin. May today's discussion inspire collaboration, innovation, and a deeper understanding of how science will serve our people. Maraming salamat po, and I wish everyone productive and meaningful day. Salamat po.
Maraming salamat po, Sir Mike. Now, we move forward what we hear our program. Beginning with the vital topics for our region, the Marikina River Basin is no stranger to the threat of landslides, severe flooding, and understanding interest in our first line of defense. So, after this, may we invite the panel, the OIC of the Hydrological Insurance section of NGB Calabarzon. Our new please, Sir Aaron Marashan from NGB Calabarzon. When we share this insight about the familiarized community, geohazards and accidents. Pangalawa po natin. No, so ang unang topic po kasi ito, so mahalaga kasi na bago tayo mag-discuss, kumbaga, kung ano po yung mga tinatawag natin geological, kailangan po muna same-page tayo. Pag sinabing flooding, alam po natin kung ano feeling ng flooding. Sinabing geohazard, alam po natin yung geohazard. Ano po? So sa introductory topic po na to, hopefully, masasagot po dapat natin, ino po yung geohazard. Okay po? Yan po. So ang topic po natin is familiarizing community with geohazards and flooding. Okay, next slide. So by the end of this forum, hindi lang po itong topic ito ng just this topic. But after this this forum, dapat masasagot natin itong mga questions na to. Unang, what is a geohazard? So kailangan ko mamaya after this topic or this forum, tinanong ko po kayo po ang geohazard, masasagot na po natin siya. Ano po? Pangalawa po, bakit po ba natin experience ng community natin? Pangatlo po, may mga katanungan po na hindi raw nila na-experience before or hindi po sila binaka. Ano po ba yung nagbago sa community natin natin? So we hope in ourselves, masasagot po natin yan after all the topics that will be presented this morning. Okay po? And lastly, sa ano po natin siya pilihan for this day? Ano po? Okay. Start? So, una po sagutin natin what are geohazards. So, pag sabi po natin geohazard, hindi po bang magtaas mo kamay? Ito po dito sa inyo. Sabi natin geohazard. Yung mga GRREs, research po natin. Ito po na, ito po geohazard. Ito po na kamay. Hindi ko naman po magre-recite. Anyone know ano po ang geohazard? So, alam po natin sa mga live, pero what the basic definition is a geohazard? Alam po ba natin? So, taas lang po na kamay, kung tama anak. Nakambuk ha? Kasi may mga kasama po kayo yung factor related dito. The very minimum class na natin. Geohazard. Okay? So, what's that geohazard? What the games? So conflicts that natural first or happens mga natural po proseso ng kung sa training. At pinagawa ko lang ng proseso na to. Natural. Natural po ba siya o natural? So nakaupo po natural first. Natural. 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 Iba. Pero hindi ko sa daigdig natin. Yung pagpong natural or pelikula, every year natin ito, basically, may natin. So, dapat mo naturally break it. Pero nakikita sa ina ko, so, if the data are, if it alert or situation, if it potential contribution injury or damage to the environment combination. So, kung naka-effective ng pangyayari na pwede ipulot na damage to property, damage to environment, damage to life. For the first case, construction. So, kung pinag-do natin sila, so, I'm thinking, so, so, transaction, no? So, ito after na present, dito natural natin. Dahil po, ito po ay research, wala. Ito po na dahil po tayo research, dahil po dito, may number po tayo and so on, let's go on. Pero ang nahihintay namin, ganito ang words of the board po namin natin po sa ating strategy. Okay? Naiintindihan po natin yung yung parang naiintindihan po natin siguro po sa akin naiintindihan. Kumain na. Naiintindihan po ba? No, naiintindihan naman.
So, kailangan pa lang hindi lang pag-check mo yung kailangan minta. Hindi ko lang kung yung improvement. Sa una, yung ito, ang hindi na kung naman continue. Hindi ko ba naman yung hindi ka napapin. Kaya ko tayo, marami ko siya yung kapag ko dito, parang ko kami parang dito ko niya, parang
map. So, pindutin lang po natin yung MGB Geohazard Portal Map. So, ito po yung makikita natin sa portal. So, as you can see, nakalapat na po yung mga susceptibilities niya. Pati po yung mga box-box niya, yung tinatawag po quadrangle maps po. So, pwede po natin gamitin yung search function. Then, pwede po natin i-search yung location natin. And ipapakita naman po doon. May lalabas na may lalabas po na maliit na dialog box at maliit na preview po ng mapa. So, pwede po natin i-click ulit yung mapa at lalabas po yung ng panibagong tab at doon po yung full screen na ng mapa namin. And pwede nyo na pong i-save from there. Save as image. So, yung second option naman po ay ang Hazard Hunter PH. So, pwede nyo pong bisitahin yung website nila, hazardhunter.georisk.gov.ph, or kahit i-search nyo lang po sa search tab ng Google, unang-unang results po siya. Siya po yung lalabas. So, ito po yung homepage ni Hazard Hunter. So, pwede nyo rin po siyang pwede po i-search nyo ulit yung location, or kung alam nyo po yung specific coordinates ng location, pwede nyo pong gamitin yung use coordinates. Kung gusto niyo pong pumunta sa interactive map niya, punta po kayo sa Go to Map View. Ito po yung makikita. Ayan, so, ito po Hazard Hunter PH is a collection na po ng mga hazard maps from different agencies po. So, para po maipalabas yung hazard maps ni MGB, punta po kayo sa hazard sa left side. Ayan, and i-check nyo lang po yung flood and rain-induced landslide ni MGB. So, may kita nyo na lang dito. So, ang ano po dito kay Hazard Hunter, pwede nyo po i-double-click yung location. And magkakalculate po siya ng assessment results niya. Ayun po. So, nakikita nyo po sa taas, yung location, and then i-calculate nyo po yung pinaka-malapit, kung gano'n siya kalayo sa pinaka-malapit na let's say, for example, yung volcanic hazard, yung Taal, and yung hindi lang po masyado kita, pero may spot siya dito sa east side niya, nakita niya. So, ito po sa kanan, yung concise and na results, pero kung gusto niyo po ng report with recommendations and explanations, pwede niyo pong pindutin yung view report with recommendations po. So, may lalabas po na another tab. Tapos nandun po siya as a PDF report. So next, ayan po ang example ng assessment report po from the Hazard Hunter. So meron po siyang seismic, volcanic, and hydrogeological. Ito po yung sa MGB. So, yan. Sana po ay natutunan po tayo. Thank you very much.
Maraming salamat po, Ms. Arian for giving the background about the MGB geologic maps. So, bali itong mga mapang to ay promote ko na lang din po ang aming Facebook page, ang aming Mind City Science Bureau Region 4 Calabarzon Facebook page na kung saan nililink po namin yung link or website ng Geohazard Hunter na kung saan pwede po natin ma-access para malaman po natin kung ang lugar po ba natin ay to the raining boost landslides or flooding and so on. So with that po, ang team po namin ay nagbibigay po ng mga question slips. So you can place your questions po and we will be entertaining them later after po the last presenter. So for now, we know na medyo info overload na tayo and mayroon na po tayo dalawang naging topics. So we will now proceed to the wellness break for about 15 minutes. So pwede po tayo mag-CR and sa mga hindi pa po nakapag-log sa registration po natin, sign the attendance, please do so. And balik po tayo dito after 5 minutes. Maraming salamat.
Graduated from the University of the Philippines in Diliman in 1993 and obtained his PhD in Earth Sciences from the University of Hong Kong. He has published around 40 scientific articles in international journals and has at least 75 local and international conference paper abstracts. He led the landslide and flood hazards assessment and mapping of the Mines and Geosciences Bureau from 2008 to 2013. Following his early retirement, he joined the mining industry and led the mineral resource exploration and environmental protection and enhancement programs in Sierra Leone, West Africa, Ulaanbaatar in Mongolia, Paracale, Jose Panganiban in Camarines Norte, and Suyok, Mankayan, Benguet. In 2021, he was called back to government service to become the supervising geologist of the Marine Geological Survey Division. And now, he is the chief geologist of the Lands Geological Surveys Division at the Mines and Geosciences Bureau Central Office. Both an esteemed member of the government and the academic community, let's all welcome and give him our round of applause, Dr. Carlo Queano.
So, magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Before I start, let me just emphasize that what I'm going to say today is not just official statement of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. I am giving this presentation to help you also and also for me to relay information and my experience when it comes to flood hazards mitigation. It is good, I think that's the strength when you work in the academy, when you work in the industry, and when you work in the government agency. Yun nga lang po, sa pagtatrabaho sa gobyerno, sabi nga po, I already retired in 2013. And before that, when I retired, I joined, of course, I used to teach at UP, I also used to teach at Ateneo de Manila, and then I was called back to government service. So, gusto ko lang po liniwagin po, if you have any questions, whatever answers I give is not the official statement of the DNR. So, kung kayo po ay tatamaan, wala pong personalan. Ang sasabihin ko po ay based sa aming research when I was with Ateneo, sa aming pag-aaral when I'm currently, of course, with the Mines and Geosciences Bureau. So my title, I changed the title, Flooding in Marikina Watershed and Greater Metropolitan Manila, Understanding the Science, Changing Our Mindset, and Enhancing Resilience. We all know for a fact that the Philippines is always visited typhoons. No question about it. The only problem though is that the average tropical cyclone appears to be decreasing, but the intensity, its strength is actually increasing. If we're gonna look at it from 1947 to 2023, 55 tropical cyclones directly passing through or directly passed through metropolitan Manila from 1947 again to 2023. So the very basic question, which somehow was already answered by the previous presenter, why is Marikina flooding? But if you're gonna look at it, Marikina, there, the setting is that it is bounded by the southern Sierra Madre. No question about it. But more importantly, if we're gonna look at its watershed, it accounts to about 55,000 hectares. And when we talk about Marikina, it is not just one river. So hindi po iisa lang siya. kung titingnan po natin, there are a lot of tributaries. Napakadami po siya. Di ba po? So in fact, if we're gonna look at Marikina, let's just go to the next, that there are sub-watersheds. Example, ang point na to responsible dito sa mga tributaries. Itong point na to responsible po dito siya. Ito dito po. Ito dito sa portion na to. So marami po pinaggagalingan ng tubig papunta sa main Marikina River. That's why when you talk about mitigation, you just don't look at main Marikina. You should understand where the water is coming from, because Marikina in itself is a sub-watershed of the Pasig River. Within the Marikina sub-watershed, there are a lot of sub-watersheds. And for that reason, when you talk about flooding, in areas that have a lot of tributaries, the more that the main river would be flood-prone. So that is one scientific information that I would like to relay. You just don't mitigate it. You should understand where the sources of water are. Another thing, unfortunately, when you talk about Marikina, it is a basin as explained. But what is very interesting about this when you talk about the geologists is that the basin, low-lying, hindi po siya tipong ganyan lang. It's more biased, it's tilted to the west. Kung napapansin niyo po, if we're gonna look at it, okay, let me just look at this. Hindi niyo po ba napapansin, mula sa Wawa Dam, palabas po, ano po? Yan, palabas po tayo. Hindi siya, kumbaga, if this is the main river, naturally kasi, paglumpas po sa bundok, it would go down, bababa ka agad siya. But no, if we're gonna look at it, yung ilog, it continues all the way to the west, bago siya bababa. And that tells you that the basin is tilted to the west. So it's not surprising why the western half of the basin is more flood-prone compared to the eastern portion. Okay po? Okay? So that's why, kung ako ay magbibili ng bahay, kung ako lang, hindi man ako mayaman. Siyempre, if I know the science, I would prioritize the eastern over the western. Kung may lupa pa. But again, remember that the basin is bounded by the West Valley Fault and East Valley Fault, both of which are active. As pointed out by Freeballs, it's okay to build near a fault but not on top of a fault. Okay? And also, because of the movement of this fault, the bounding hills, the bounding mountains are landslide prone. Kasi nga, pag gumagalaw po ang fault, ground shaking happens, nagkakapitak-pitak ang bato. Okay? So yun po. And as I have already, just to summarize, the makeup of watersheds influences how often floods happen, how bad they are when they do happen. Watersheds with steep slopes, just like the southern Sierra Madre, tend to promote faster runoff and rapid water flow. So rivers with more tributaries tend to be more prone to flooding. Unfortunately, when you talk about basin, your Marikina Basin, we have the southern Sierra Madre. Siyempre, steep yung slope niya. Wala sanang problema. But you have to control the surface runoff. Mas mabilis ang daloy ng tubig kaysa gentle ang slope. So if we are going to focus about Marikina, as pointed out by Mr. Canlas, who was my former student at Mapua, tumatanda. Nagturo po ako sa Mapua, nagturo po ako sa Adamson, ngayon balik ulit ako pa isa-isang subject sa Mapua. Pampagana lang po ng utak. I come from a family of teachers. But anyway po, no. So sabi nga niya, it is a floodplain. People always say, ngayon lang nangyari ang baha. Tanong ko po, gaano kahaba po ang buhay ninyo? Remember, when you talk about flood, geologic events, it could have happened 1800, it could have happened 1700, just like an earthquake. Whenever an event happens, there's always that event that would leave what we call a geomorphic imprint. Kaya nga mga geologists, sabi namin, ay hindi ba kayo binaha dati, pero may ebidensya na binaha po kayo dati base sa klase ng deposito na nakikita namin sa lupa. Kaya ho kami, we are able to map out this so-called landslide or flood susceptibility. Kailangan po natin anong gagawin natin? There are so-called concept, or there is a concept of what we call adaptation, and I'm going to talk about it later on. So, hindi dapat siya kinakatakutan. Of course, siyempre, landslide, ako lalayo talaga ako dyan. Pero flood, there are ways to adapt. Okay? Dives. That's the thing. If we're gonna look at the Philippines, my impression is always mitigated, like a dive. There is no problem with a dive, okay? For as long as it's actually constructed properly. So if we're gonna look at it, yung itim po na nakikita nyo dyan, doon lang po may dike, but they intend to bring it papunta sa upstream. There is a consequence. Ano po bang consequence? When we put a dive, right? Napoconstrict. Example lang ho, ano? Hirap eh. Sabihin natin, ako po ang ilog. Naglagay ako ng dike sa downstream. Siyempre, pag dali po ng tubig doon, pag tagbaha, hindi siya gaano mabilis mag-flow kasi constricted na siya eh. You did not allow the river to actually spread its load. So in that case, dun sa dike, pag na-constrict siya, doon sa upstream, maiipon ng tubig. Kaya doon siya unang magbabaha. Okay? The way you construct dike should not be like this. It should not be beside the river. Doon pala may basura nandun. If the dike is this low, but if you see the garbage there, you know that the dike would not be able to fully contain the flood. For that reason, when we talk about design, structural design, whatever structures that we are talking about, we need to know the flood height based on historical records, but more importantly, which many people tend to forget, that there should be forecasting based on climate change. Nung history natin dati siguro ang ganyan baha. But if we're gonna look at it, in the next 50 years, we expect stronger precipitation in northern Luzon. So mas maraming tubig ang babaksak sa northern Luzon. So yung forecasting, future forecasting should be integrated in the design. Otherwise, the design would actually fail. But as I have said, there is a problem with the design. Because we did not allow the river to spread its load. We had a forum, and I was one of the panelists, a forum organized by Geohazards International about nature-based solution. And in that presentation, it was emphasized that there should be a room for the river program, that the spaces are returned to the rivers to flood rather than attempting it to contain the flood water. We want to move the dikes inland to create wider floodplain kasi nga po floodplain nga po siya. So bigyan natin siya pagkakataon pag-floods para hindi po siya pumunta doon sa ibang area, no? Allowing the river to flow safely. So as you can see from here, this is a dike that commonly we see not just in Marikina but throughout the Philippines, no? So tabi ka agad ng ilog. But if you're gonna think about it, this is the wrong design there. Move away para ito yung mag-flood and then you put the vegetation. Better yet, you put the vegetation just beside the river, then you put the dike. So, a very good example here is that we need to also restore old channels and expand room for rivers during high water by restoring natural floodplains. So how do we restore floodplains? This is Marikina, but this is how we are supposed to do it. Ideally, okay? Ideally. Why? If you're gonna look at this one below here, may ilog po. Dapat po kasi pre-preserve yung natural vegetation around it. Okay? Bakit po? First, natural vegetation allows to filter the pollutants. Kung anumang basura yan, haharangin niya. Number two, it allows to stabilize what we call the bank. Number three, very, very important as well, is that although it allows to flood, yung impact din ng flood waters malelesen. Kasi syempre, hindi lang naman dahan-dahan yan. Vegetation can hold or at least ibaba or reduce the energy brought about by this. So, if you're gonna look at this, eto po yung vegetation niya. Kita niyo po. Tapos yung dike, nandun sa likod ng vegetation, yung kulay dilaw. That is the proper way of doing it. So for that reason, it was introduced a while ago that really, we have to seriously consider nature-based solutions. Solutions that are inspired and supported by nature, which are cost-effective, simultaneously providing environmental, social, and economic benefits. Kasi naman tayo, maglagay lang ng tag, tapos na. But remember, hazard mitigation is also an opportunity to enhance socio-economic conditions. Kung makikita nyo kanina, di ba, pwede siya maging tourism. Yung mga puno, pwede siya magkaroon ng ecosystem services. Sa mga coastal areas, pagkaroon mangroves, dadami doon ang ating mga crabs or whatever, yun ay magiging pangkabuhayan ng mga ordinaryong tao. So it should enhance it. That's why hazard mitigation is an opportunity. It offers benefits to the people and the environment, and conservation and promotion of biodiversity, crucial to that concept. So just to demonstrate, although this is a mangrove, pero ganun din po yung effect niya, no? I cannot play. But, ang point lang ho dito, no? Pag umapaw po siya, yung tubig, yung mga halaman, haharangan niya yung pollutants. Lalo na, you can even put grasses bago pala yung puno. So yung grass, i-filter niya yung mga dumi, yung mga sediments. Yung mga puno, i-hold niya yung bank. Paglabas niya dito, there are already shrubs again. Okay, para pag bumalik ulit yung nag-receive yung tubig, yung mga basura galing sa land, haharangan naman ng grass. Para pagdating sa ilog, malinis-linis na. In fact, there are cases wherein what they planted are yung tinatawag na phytoremediators. Meaning to say, yung mga halaman na kayang humilog ng mga chemicals, mga heavy metals. Okay? Sila ang nagsasakyan para paglampas sa inyo, pagpunta sa flat, malinis-linis na. But if you're gonna look at what is happening in the Philippines, makalagay lang ng dige. Without even considering this, it diminishes generally ang ganda ng environment. Pag pangit ang environment, walang turismo. Walang turismo, bababa ang oportunidad na para kumita ang mamamayan. Okay? So, ito po, pinapakita ko po sa inyo ay mga scenarios na pinakis ni Yu et al. On how how can we put in vegetation, and that vegetation is what we call the riparian buffer zone. So, a question again is, kasi ang lakas po ng precipitation, ang lakas po ng ulan. But look at Typhoon Ondoy. Okay? So Typhoon Ondoy, that's not in July 2024, that is in 2012. Tama po ba? Ay, tama. 2009, sorry, yeah, 2009. It's about 330 millimeters, so that's wrong, no? But if you're gonna look at Ulysses, for 400 millimeters, Ulysses was just 234. Typhoon Gaile, which is Typhoon Karina, was just 270, but the magnitude is almost the same. So it is not about, simply just about rainfall. There is something happening. Tama. Kasi, kung dapat mas mababa ang ulan, hindi dapat ganyan katindi ang baha. So that is why, when I was with Ateneo de Manila, we tried to look into this aspect. What exactly is happening? So, we look at the land use changes through time. Unfortunately, the most available for us is starting at 2050. Developed, when I say development, built up area, the gray one, 9.62% of the total watershed. Agriculture, 2.37. Grassland was 39.1 and forest is 42.67. Pagpasok po ng 2020, you look at the comparison. Biglang tumaas ang development. Panay simento. Okay? O kaya, dumami po ang kabahayan. 16.34. Agriculture, some of the forest maybe was converted to agriculture. So you expect na yung surface runoff bibilis din. At 6.58, okay, ang forest somehow tumaas 65.93. But when we now go to, when we go to 2024, you look at the development, lalo pa siyang tumaas from 16.34 to 19.13%. Okay? So you can see that their land use changes somehow seem to be responsible for or to explain such kind of variation in precipitation, but the magnitude is almost the same. Now, development. Pag intindihin po natin ang ilog, sabi kanina, easement zone. Tama naman. Pero applicable ba talaga? Mag-measure ako ng 20 meters. Kung ako'y nasa probinsya, 20 meters. So, ibig sabihin, safe pa ba ako? O kaya pag urban, 5 meters. Tama. So, if you're gonna look at the floodplain, sa loob po, sa gitna po, o sa loob ng meander o kurba ng ilog, dyan po binabaha. Sa labas naman po, okay, dito nag-erode. So, dito po sa loob, magbabaha, dyan magdideposito, sa outer, mag-erode. Para po akong nakastay sa jeep. Pag kumaliwa ang jeep, mapapakanan kayo. Tama mo ba? Kaya nga, pag kayo kumaliwa ang jeep, pero kayo kumaliwa, may problema kayo. Diba? Against physical laws yan. So, because of the centrifugal force, pag kumaliwa, dapat kakanan kayo. Ganun din po kasi ang ilog. Yung tubig, doon sa outer siya mag-erode. So, pag nandun kayo sa outer meanders, o sa outer na bend, huwag kayo masyado malapit kasi unti-unti niya kukukain yan. Pero pag nasa loob naman kayo, kung anong inuka niya, kasama yung tubig, doon po niya i-deposito. So, kung ang bahay ninyo na andun sa loob, o mismo tabi sa labas, there is now already a potential hazard. So the flood now becomes a hazard. So we look at the changes. You look at these changes. 2004 in San Mateo, halos wala pang bahay. 2024, lumapit ang mga tao. 2000, sa May Rodriguez, wala pang bahay. 2024, punong-puno na ng bahay. Tapos magtataka kayo, binabaha kami. Lumapit kasi kayo eh. But I do not judge people. I am just stating a fact that there are consequences sa actions natin or sa actions ng local government or kung actions ng mga agencies concerned. So if we're gonna look at Marikina, the same thing. You can see na yung build up, mas kokonti. But in 2024, dumami. Panay simento. And pagdating din dito, you look at this. Okay? So, 2020 dito, no? Halos-halos pareho-pareho. Pero pagdating mo rito sa loob, here, ang dami niya is very densely populated already. So, the exposure to that kind of flood hazard has actually increased. And the more we go downstream area, the same scenario, na andun tayo sa loob ng meander. So that's the reason why, as explained, when we put up a lot of this, wala na para yung cemento and everything, surface runoff increases, as explained by Sir Allen kanina. So you see that, di ba? In-explain nga niya, kapag panay cemento na, masyado ng development, mas mabilis tumaas ang baha. So, mining. So mining has always been an issue, not just in Marikina. When I talk about mining, I'm talking about both illegal and legal mining. If we're gonna look at the Marikina watershed, we planted the Marikina, the MPSE, those big companies there. And when you talk about these big companies, ang liit-liit po yan, 0.31%. And if we're gonna look at, pwede naman kasi mali, pero malaki ang contribution niya sa siltation. Pwede. That's why we always look into their siltation and environmental protection. Kasi dapat hindi pwedeng mag-operate ang isang minahan kapag tapon lang ng tapon dyan. Big, especially for big companies, no, they have environmental protection to catch all of this silt. But for others, maybe for illegal mining sa other provinces, lalo na kung dito mga ayoko kasi magsabi ng small scale eh. No? Yun yung magiging problema if they don't have any environmental problem. For other quarry operations that are given permit by the local government units, nandun siya, it only occupies about 0.45%. So if you are going to compare the different land uses, all in all mining is just less than 1%. So when we talk about science here, we need to identify which really is causing such kind of problem. And it seems really that the rapid development papunta sa taas ng bundok, pababa, is causing a lot of surface runoff, further enhancing that flood hazard. There are a lot of maps. Project NOAA. We also produced a map here when I was with Ateneo de Manila. And of course, the DNR map. People should understand how to use the map. The way you use map will depend on the scale. Ano pong ibig sabihin? Pag kayo po ay nasa eroplano, hindi makikita ang bubong ng bahay. So the way you interpret doon sa ilalim, kung ano lang nakikita nyo, tama po ba? Pag unti-unti bumababa ang eroplano, unti-unti nyo makikita ang mas detalye pa. Yung mga kabayan may bubong, ay maraming palang bubong. So, mag-iiba ang interpretation nyo hanggang mag-land yung eroplano. Ano kung ibig sabihin? Hindi ibig sabihin na high landslide, wala na ka pwedeng tirhan. Of course, ang priority natin low landslide. Pero kung hindi pa pwede, sa high landslide, pwede ka bang makakita? Okay? Kung pumunta ka sa lugar at mag-assess ka, kasi iba na yung scale. Unlike when 1 is to 10,000 doon. So that's how we interpret it. The Mines and Geosciences Bureau, DNR, right? We produce that. We update our map. But at the same time, hindi naman namin pine-prevent na magawa ka na gumamit ng ibang papa. But you need to have you should know the limitation. We are doing probabilistic. Some entities also do probabilistic. But probabilistic is a model. There is no such thing as wrong or right model precisely because it is a model. It is based on limitations. Kaya sa science, pag sabi, mali ang model mo, o kaya sa pag-asa, sabi yun, mali ang forecast mo. People, forecast is a prediction. There is no such thing as an accurate prediction precisely because it's based on a model. At the time when they did their forecast, ito yung data na available. Kaso nga lang nung dumaan yung pag nag-iba. And that is the limitation of science. Okay? So in the scientific field, it is very unethical for any entity na magsiraan sa publiko. That is very, very bad. As a responsible scientist, right, we encourage collaboration. You should work all together because the main user here are the ordinary Filipino people. So you would not hear any of those na. I always tell our scientists here, never do that in public, no? You should know, teach people the limitations of this. Kung probabilistic natin, 100-year flood, the 100-year flood is with the assumption that through the years, hindi magbabago ang physical condition. So, kung ang base map nila is 2013, it might not necessarily apply sa 2024 kasi baka bumabaw na yung ilog. Pag bumabaw na yung ilog, mag-iiba po kung tumabaw na to. Kaya nga, importanteng maintindihan kung ano ang limitasyon ng bawat model. That's why you try to maximize whatever maps are available. Okay po ba? Now, Ano namang connection sa Metro Manila? Well, let's talk about the greater Metro Manila. Sa Manila, ang tubig na pumupunta sa Manila Bay ay nanggagaling pa sa Zambales hanggang Nueva Ecija pababa. So, on a local level, greater metropolitan Manila, ang Pasig, ang Marikina, bumabaksak sa Pasig. Ang Pasig dumadali papuntang Manila Bay. Tapos ang Laguna Lake ay papuntang Manila Bay. Pag high tide baliktad, Manila Bay papuntang Laguna. Tapos pagdating sa iba portion ng Quezon City, may mga ilog papuntang diretsong Manila. In other words, when we talk about Manila, sila talaga ang end na catchment basin. So that's why when we talk about greater Metro Manila, Manila itself, it is a catchment basin. Nagtataka ho ba kayo bakit binaba? Catchment nga po. Kaya nga, wala pa ho masyadong kabahayan. Panahon pa ng mga Espanyol. Sa Pasig River, also being a floodplain, it is a flood-prone area. But the story is not as simple as what it as you think. No? Because we have the big problem here in the Philippines because of the climate change. The sea level rise in the Philippines is 3 times. Okay? In many areas, it's 3 times faster than the global average. Just like Metro Manila, just like Manila Bay, it's rising so fast. 3 times more than the global average since the 1960s. Now, ang pang-combat natin, pag maliis ang sea level rise, is magdala ng maraming sediments papuntang dagat. Kung pataas ang dagat, habanan natin ng lupa. Okay po? Tama po ba? So, kaya nga, ang rivers, nagdadala ng sediments to balance this out. Pero pag binawasan ang buhangin, ang mga bato, papuntang dagat, tayo, no? Magkakaproblema yung community sa coastal. Again, when we talk about hazards assessment, it's not just about you. It's not about San Mateo. It's also about people doon sa baba. Parang kapitbahay. Nagtaas siya, nakakakulang ni Abo, lumipat sa akin. Di ba? So, there is that concept, ethics, moral, what we call inclusivity. So, we need to understand all of these things. However, as I have said, there are consequences. Ang solution ninyo is dredging. When you dredge, bawas ang sediments. When you put the dam, which is actually good, no? In your case, because what we want is bawasan yung tubig papuntang Marikina Basin. And one way is to put dam. Number 2, maybe you enhance the more of those trees or environment, diba? Yung parang bawasan yung surface runoff. But obviously, when you put dam, naharangan yung sediments. When you dredge, nagtatanggal ka ng sediments. Pag naglagay ka ng dige, just like this, you isolate the river from the floodplain. When you isolate it, kasi sementado na, wala nang erode yung ilog. So ang baba, punta na lang doon ay tubig. Kaya ko naman po pinakita ito. No? After dumawadang maraming bato. Correct po. However, pag naglagay ka ng dam, babawas ang tubig yung competence or capacity of the river to transport sediments, babawas. Kasi bawas yung tubig eh. So, hihina ang kanyang paghatak or pag-transport ng mga sediments. As I have said, hazards mitigation should be inclusive. Walang problema kung walang magre-reklamo. Okay? And we have to be responsible as well. Let's be sensitive din to supply ng iba. So yun yung po ang tinatawag natin cascading effects of the coastal areas. Now, it's not just this Manila Bay, no? Hindi lang siya Marikina pala. If you're gonna look at Cavite, they also put in a lot of those dams there, which is somehow is also very important. In some cases, or in many cases, the rivers are also being tapped for irrigation, which is also important for food. But as I have said, importante siya, but people who might get affected should also be informed so that we can also be able to make the right planning. Planning is not about municipality. It's the whole thing, and it's a whole government approach. Unfortunately for Manila, the sea level is rising, but at the same time, the ground is subsiding. A very good case is Bulacan. It is subsiding Bulacan and Pampanga. I should know because my wife is from Kalumpit, Bulacan. Pansin niyo po yung bahay niya. Bata-bata pa siya, kikita niyo yung terrace doon. Ngayon wala na, lubog na. And the ground subsidence is real. Excessive groundwater extraction has been identified as a culprit. Pag masyadong maraming groundwater ina-extract, syempre, yung lupa magkokongka. That's why people, when we give permits, we need to know the consequences as well. May negative, but sometimes we have to accept the negative consequences for the good of everyone. Diba? Ang importante lang naman kasi inclusive. Unfortunately nga, parang dito sa Pilipinas, sa Metro Manila, kanya-kanya. Ang ginawa nila sa Bulacan, itinaas yung daan, di lalong lumala because yung rivers hindi na makapag-flow papuntang dagat. And what is the effect of the relative sea level rise? You look at this. A lot of that barangays in Bulacan had already below sea level, permanently inundated. And based on a publication, you can see that Intramuros by 2,100, if the trend continues to rise, yung buong area na yan ng Manila would be permanently inundated. Okay? So, how would it affect Marikina? Kapag pumasok lalo ang sea level, hindi ko makapag-flow efficiently in Pasig River. It will not be able to flow as efficiently as it is. Pag mas mabagal ang daloy ng Pasig, mas babagal ang daloy ng Marikina. Pag bumaba ang daloy o mas bumagal ang daloy ng Marikina, you expect that your flood susceptibility would actually increase. So, ano ba? Wala namang pag-asa? Meron. Sa tingin ko. Kaya nakabubulip ng gobyerno eh. Pinagsisisihan ko, sometimes, pero ganyan talaga pag ikaw ay nasa publiko. There are innovative ways. Sometimes we need to accept that the area is flood prone. Alam mo na ang flood prone, bakit pa na yung simento? So in other countries, what they do, they adapt the design. Number one, you look at the script, parang sa vegan. Ba't naman isa-simento mo ay flood prone na nga? So kung gagawin ko, parang mga tiles to allow the water to sit. Okay? Or, flooding should not really result to the stoppage of economic activity. So I had the opportunity to go to Germany to have that kind of learning. So they just accepted it. So what they did, they put in a lot of footbridge connecting one building to the other. But kahit patuloy pa rin tayo, maglakad tayo, patuloy pa rin economic activity. Kasi it should not, that's how you just have to understand what the science is all about. Also, as I have said, mitigation doesn't really have to be ugly. Just like what you see here. Okay? So this is a photo that I took. It's a dike. So you can see that the dike was moved away from the hindi tabing-tabing ilog. But at the same time, it's a hybrid type. May mga bato-bato, tapos there's that space to put in those grass. It enhances yung beauty niya. It increases its tourism. Nagtaas ang kanilang yung kanilang income. Because hazards, again, mitigation should be an opportunity for us to also enhance socio-economic activity. In other countries, they try to modify it in such a way that there would be more greens to enhance tourism and also socio-economic activity or social activity or recreation, like the presence of rain gardens that filter surface runoff, enhance biodiversity through a selection of local and native species. It promotes also efficient circulation and pores increases permeability of the site. A very good example locally is Iloilo. They thought about science. They integrated science. They also considered that any mitigation that they do should also enhance recreation and socio-economic activity para yung income nila tumaas. So this is a local example. In Singapore, winasak nila yung drain infrastructure because they think ang pangit. So what they did, they made use of nature-based solution. It's a flood prone, so people should accept that it is flood prone. Okay? So what are you going to do now? At ang gagawin natin, palayasin yung tao? Hindi naman. Hindi ko alam eh. Kasi sabi nga nila, sabi lagi sa akin, i-relocate. It's very easy for us to say it's relocate. Kasi kung i-relevant yung tao, wala namang livelihood, mamamatay din sila. It's very insensitive to say, dapat wala kayo dyan eh. If you're gonna, based on my experience, marami sa mga mahihirap sila ang nasa hazards. And that's the reason why the most vulnerable sectors of the society should be really assisted. It's not just about relocation, it's also about livelihood. For those who have that, those that are less well, should I say more fortunate, you can always adapt by one. Taasin yung bahay ninyo kung may pera kayo. First floors, maybe parking. Second floor, doon talaga kayo magtatayo. Adapt. Okay? So aside from footbridge, adapt. Yung mga buildings natin, ganun din. Kung nandun talaga kayo sa flood flood, wala na talaga kayong choice, you adapt. So that is very important sa mga design natin. And that is what we are actually encouraging. Design the structure by considering as well the physical conditions and climate change. Also, yung guide nila, naglagay po sila na, dito mga amphitheater or park, ito po nakikita nyo sa baba. Just like what you see here. Ang taas ng bigay, pero maganda. Kasi nga, ginawa nilang park, kaya ang daming turista. Look at that. Okay? So maganda po. Diba? At alam nila, because of the climate projection, kailangan itaas. Kung baga po sa atin, nandyan lang dito, look how tall or how high it is because of their climate change forecast. And another thing, mitigation does not have to be ugly. The role of the arts and creativity can be a key to changing people's mindset on how to deal with geohazards. Maglalagay ka na rin lang pangit. Dinalagay nila may art pa sa mga tiles pa sila nalalaman. So maganda. And also, if you look at their windows, it's flood-proof, waterproof siya, metal siya, pati tight siya. So kapag walang baha, bubuksan na coffee siya. Pag may bago, isarado nila temporary. Okay? So dinesign nila ng ganun. So I think as second to the last, just some of the learnings, okay? When we talk about geohazard prevention, there is a need to understand how nature works, the need to maintain a healthy ecosystem that understands the limitations of what the environment can offer. You should know what the limitations are. We can utilize it sustainably for as long as you know the limitations of the environment. It is important that we respect nature because the nature we know is the art of God. Salamat po.
Thank you po, Doc Carlo, for giving the comprehensive insights about urban planning in Marikina watershed under changing environment. So, he highlighted that the need to change the people's mindset in order to deal with the geohazards. So now, let's proceed to the open forum. As instructed earlier, may mga binigay po kami comments form para po ibigay po sa atin. So as of now, meron po akong hawak na isa. And may request the presence of the three speakers po here in front. So kuha po tayo kukuha nila. I think pwede na natin buksan ang ilaw. So, may we request si Sir Allen Canlas, si Ma'am Arian King, and si Don Carlo po here in front para po simulan ang ating open forum. So, ngayon, may hawak po isa. So, let me read. Habang nagsusulat po yung iba. Ito. So first is, I think it is a comment from the audience from BDRRMO. So comment niya po ay dun sa LGB maps, particular on landslides, flooding, index. So cannot be read or hindi readable sa PowerPoint. So, nag-indicate naman po si Ms. Argan ng mga links para po personally mag-view natin yung mga review hazard factor. So, next po, ito mahapon. Dr. Greg from Montalban District Secondary School. So, from Tiaga din. So, ang comments, I would like to comment on the topic presented by Sir Alvin Lightaitan last about familiarizing the community with geohazards and flooding. So, he explained the 5 human-induced hazards, inappropriate use of land, urbanization, illegal logging, improper waste disposal and distribution of dams and dikes. So, how about, I think ito yung question, how about mining and quarrying? Human activities which can cause soil erosion and deforestation and eventually result into heavy siltation in rivers. So, I think that's going to be comment for Sir Allen.
I think that was delved upon by the presentation or the topic of Dr. Carlo Queano. So I will let him further explain.
Of course, we have to discriminate what is mining. You cannot just lump them all together. There's a difference between responsible and irresponsible mining. Lahat naman po ng anthropogenic activity, whether this is mining or agriculture, or even conversion of our agricultural lands to mga malls because our food security will decrease, they have also negative impacts. And that's the reason why, when we talk about responsible mining, it should have an environmental protection and enhancement program that should be strictly monitored by the Mines and Geosciences Bureau. Number 2, the EPEP implementation should be truthful, and that's the reason why auditing is actually done. Number 3, there should be an active participation as well of all the stakeholders. You can always participate by in that kind of audit if you want to help also the mining industry. No, because let's face it, kailangan naman natin yung mining. Wala tayong mga materials for construction without the mining. But we are talking about yung responsible mining. Okay? So siltation is not just about mining. When we change land use from forest to agriculture, that can also increase what? Siltation. The more that if we convert our agricultural lands to just simple what? Mga semento, that can also increase the siltation. So it has to be something that is really about science here. All kinds of anthropogenic activity can have both negative and positive consequences. And also, mind you, the DNR right now has implemented progressive rehabilitation. Every time that there is a disturbance, tapos hindi na talaga piminahin part na yun, immediately siya ay dapat i-rehabilitate. No? So there's that kind of program that is being implemented. Ang malaki lang natin magiging problema siguro, if there are, like when you talk about quarrying in many provinces, so these are actually led by the provincial or the local government units. Or in cases where indiscriminate mining happens, that is really giving negative reputation for the industry. That's the reason why lahat naman ng stakeholders, if you think that there is something that is illegal, you really have to report it. No? The MGB is doing its best. We're now trying to, I'm not from the mines, kasi mines and geosciences, nandun po ako sa geosciences. But in fairness to the mines, we are now looking at remote sensing images real time to actually monitor the mine as well. Parang nalungkis sa sagot ko, pero yun po ang aking pananaw. Salamat po.
Thank you, Dr. Carlos. So, for someone na tanong po, kay Dr. Greg, I think, na sagot naman po yung question. So, next po, kay Sir Richard from MAPA, how often are geohazard maps updated from time to time?
I think it's better for me to answer this because I'm the one overseeing the geohazard program of the MGB. There are several levels of updating it. Okay? We have a formal program, that is the VRA, that includes the updating of the map. But of course, the updating is a formal way of updating it. We would have updated it in 2018, but tapos na yung hindi na dapat. However, of course, hindi ganun ang ginagawa po namin. One way to do this is that whenever there is an incident, we plot all of those incidents and put it on our geohazards map. Ang accuracy so far is about 80 to 90. Kapag sinabi sa inyong 92 to 100, magduda na kayo because science is quite impossible to have that. Sometimes dinudoktor siya. You do not make doctor, no. So what you do is we plot it and then you look at the map. Bakit hindi kaya tumutugma? Because as I have said, there are situations that we are not able to capture sa mapa. Example, nangyari sa people, nagawa pala sila ng ticket dun sa tabi, lumipad yung tubig dun sa kabila kaya pinahan. So yung pag ganun klaseng level of details, we are not able to do that immediately during the updating ng mga formal updating. So that's why we have an operation center that works 24/7 when there is weather disturbance to update our map. So yun po ang ginagawa namin. So how often? As often as we can.
So that's the answer. So next po, Miss Helen from the Diocese of Antipolo. So ito ay with regards to the Project NOAA. So how do you coordinate with UP Resilience Institute on data management, especially during strong typhoons, earthquakes, and volcanic eruptions?
The MGB, being a government agency, actually works under the arm of the Office of Civil Defense. So under the Office of Civil Defense is the one that is coordinating all the agencies, the efforts of the agencies. No, insofar as the Project NOAA, as I have said kanina, you can always use that kind of map. But there is a difference, no? Their map is based on what they call as a factor of safety. Actually, I'm not supposed to explain it because it is their method. Sa amin kasi, we call it as a heuristic approach. When you say it's a heuristic, it's based on expert-driven. We have a set of geologists to it. Then we look at different parameters, geological, klase na ba ito, orientation ba ito, etc. We also do inventory of active and inactive landslides. Kasi kung meron ng active landslides, doon mo maintindihan kung ano ba ang mga conditions na nagkakos ng landslide. So that's why inventory is very, very important. When you don't have that plots, you won't be able to make sense of the map. But the probabilistic is scenario-based. Sabi ko nga, 50-year, 100-year, but be careful of the limitations kung kapag ang base map na ginagamit ay 2013 pa. And that's the reason why in MGB right now, we also have a probabilistic look, pero ibang-iba po siya doon sa Project NOAA, as far as I understand. So we're looking at different parameters and now we're using artificial intelligence as well as machine learning. But at the end of the day, I would agree with you, at this point in time, without that kind of, we had a collaboration before, but I'm not gonna tell you what happened with that collaboration. But what is important is you can always maximize the use of these maps. And if you have questions, you can ask any person from the MGB or if you want Project NOAA. But at the end of the day, people, you have to take note, observe scientific ethics.
Idadagdag po sa halin So, yan po ang sagot. Then next po ay from Sir Derek of Mama. Paano konektado ang geological hazards sa epekto ng climate change? Epekto ng geological hazards sa climate change.
Definitely, well incorporated naman po ang climate change kasi as we mentioned previously, no po, what used to be the extremes is slowly become the normal. And so, mas nagiging exposed din po tayo. Kaya dapat paintingin natin ano po yung adaptation on our part when it comes to geohazards. But definitely, climate change has a big impact on geohazards. No po kasi nga, yun nga, extreme weather events. So, we have to continuously adapt to the situation, and for the part of the MGB, as Doc Carla said nga, we continuously update these maps to make sure that they are relevant to the changing climate as well.
But let me also emphasize, it's not just about the climate change, it's the kind of actions that we do. Okay? Sabi ko nga po, baka nakakalimutan natin, climate change is there. Okay? We can maybe modify it, But yung contribution kasi natin sa greenhouse is much, much smaller compared to the other countries. But we can still exert our effort, but the more efforts is the way we actually change our strategy, our mindset, and our actions.
Okay, thank you. Next question po from Engineer Kenneth of Municipal Engineering Office. How can nature-based solution be integrated with existing art-engineered structures like dikes and below walls in the Marikina River Basin? Lalo na yung may mga existing na kabahayan na structures. So, ulitin ko po, how can nature-based solution be integrated with existing art-engineered structures in the Marikina River Basin?
Well, before I go to that structures there, it really depends on what the LGU plans to do. Because maybe if you destroy everything, baka naman sobrang mahal, mas maganda lang yung adaptation. Again, it's not just simply mitigation, it's also adaptation. Diba? So, dapat sila makakasunod, hindi kami. But at the end of the day, of course, each person can have their own contribution. Diba? Sabi ko nga po kanina, para mabawasan ang tubig pababa, baka naman gusto ninyo doon pa lang sa taas i-catch nila. Bawat bahay, pwede kahit konting contribution nyo i-catch ninyo sa mga drums ninyo, o yung mga kabahayan ninyo ay merong mayaman kayo, kaya nyo i-catch yung maraming volume, and that is already a very big contribution. But if I were to answer that question, paano makakatulong? Aba, hindi ko alam kung sa inyo ba anong plano nyo ba? Gusto magawa sa akin? But again, as I have said, it's not just about making WhatsApp. It's also being sensitive to the plight of the poor.
Okay, so yun po yung answer. Then next po, sir, I think this is for Dr. Carlo. You mentioned about inclusivity in dealing with our flooding problem. Do you think that it is about time to further encourage the combined engineering and geoscientific approach in dealing with said problems, especially on land developments?
Well, of course, definitely. But we always start with the science. But science is just an input to the whole mitigation. Because at the end of the day, even with the science, but we don't have that political support or will to actually implement that science-based approaches, it would be nothing. So it's not just about the science, it's also the kind of leadership that we need.
Okay po, may dating na po. So ang next question po ay, ito po ay grupo ng almost pare-parehas na question. With the recent issue about flood control projects, how can MGB contribute or be involved in ensuring effectiveness of the projects? Meron na po bang interagency discussions related to this?
At least nung ako ay wala kasi po ako na 10 taon nag-retire ako 2013. During my early days, there was actually a collaboration. In fact po nga, just to emphasize, before you actually construct a building or any big infrastructure, there has to be an engineering, geological, and geohazard assessment as an additional requirement for the issuance of an environmental compliance certificate or ECC. And that is for the DNR Administrative Order 2000-28. When yun nangyari sa Cherry Hills in 1998, but I think one thing that they forgot is ano ba yung impact, yung physical condition doon sa project. Sa ECC or the Environmental Impact Assessment, ang tinitingnan po kasi kung ano ang magiging impact ng project sa environment. Nakalimutan yung anong impact ng physical condition doon sa project. Kaya nga, bago magtayo, dapat mo lahat mo ng project components na mga ganyan, as much as the law says, there has to be an engineering, geological, and geohazard assessment so that you can design the structure properly. So the way we do it is that the proponent hires a private geologist. The private geologists work with the MGB on what the scope of the hazard assessment would be. And then, produce na po nila yung report ng private geologist na the MGB reviews it. And then, if pumasa po siya, after a series of reviews, saka po siya i-endorse sa environmental management. So, ganun po siya.
Okay, thank you, Dr. I think yung mga question po about DPWH, nasasagot na po ni Dr. So, now, let's proceed po dito sa question. Ito very timely. Sa panahon ngayon, maraming gumagamit ng social media. Sa paanong paraan may inform ang publiko sa mga geohazards sa kanilang community. Karamihan kasi sa mga tao ay sinisisi ang LGU. Ang problema pagdating sa mga geohazards. So, malinaw po ba yung question?
Ewan ko po ano. Isa siguro sa napapansin ko, wala na nagbabasa ng newspaper. Nalulungkot ako kasi kahit maanak ko pa rin YouTube na lang. O ano-ano na mali-mali, sometimes mali information. I think we need to go back to the basic. Number one, that's education, right? We always start with training the trainers. And the trainers would have to be the teachers. So the teachers, we train it. We should train them. And sila ang magsisimula sa mga bata. Ang very good example lang po, Hong Kong. Hong Kong, yung mga bata, hindi sila nagtatapon ng basura. I should know because I studied at the University of Hong Kong. I stayed there for 4 years. Kasi po, malaki yung penalty. So bata pa lang, alam nila kung ano magiging consequence. Kung malaki ang penalty, magtapo ka 2,500 Hong Kong times 7, that's almost about 16,000. Pag malaki ang penalty, yari ka. It's not about poverty. It's not just about mayaman na hirap. It's being responsible. So doon pa lang, magsisimula ako pa doon. Another case through the geohazards po, no? We publish it. That's a website po tayo sa Hazards Hunter. We publicize this whenever we have the IEC. And other than that, of course, we do have a lot of public forum, even in media. Kaliwat kanan nga ako yung media interview, nakakapagod to, pero kailangan po, no? But other than that, it is also your responsibility as an LGU to help us disseminate our information. One thing that I noticed in many areas that we do not have a permanent or plantilla sa mga planning officers or disaster responders. I think dapat kasi pag nagpalit po yung mga officials, napapalitan din yung plans, uulit na naman. So there has to be a sustainability by putting the right person there, the qualified person, and we encourage sana talaga yung mga plantilla so that there is a continuity in the project implementation. But in the same way, I also encourage po yung mga LGU to publish in their websites po yung mga threat advisories at saka mapa na binibigay po sa inyo para sa kaalaman din po ng inyong nakasasagot po. So it's not just about MGB, it's a whole government approach and individual responsibility as well.
Thank you. Then next po, ito ay from Anonymous. Nanghihingi lang po ng comment about to be able to increase Laguna Lake holding capacity. Is it possible to conduct dredging and improve the channel connecting Manila and Laguna Lake? So, to be able to increase Laguna Lake holding capacity, is it possible to conduct dredging and improve the channels connecting Manila and Laguna Lake?
Dredging is not a one-up because Laguna Lake is an open system. When I say it's an open system, there are a lot of rivers draining sediments towards Laguna Divide. Kaya po, hindi lang isa yan. Merong programa po siya. Ano po? But again, it's not about just dredging. It's also looking at the cost-benefit analysis. Baka naman makaka-dredge ninyo, lahat na yung mga mamatay yung mga isda, wala nang hanap po yung mga. Yung mga ganun pa, there has to be an environmental impact assessment before we actually conduct all of these things. But again, if there is no sustainable program, hindi pwedeng isang activity lang, it would not be sustainable. So is it possible? Possible. But would it actually be successful? It depends. Again po, this is my personal. Baka isumbong niyo ako sa TNL. Isumbong niyo, pero again, I already stated that this is my personal opinion.
So, mga personal question answers po doesn't reflect views and opinions po ng TNL. So, yun po ang may mga habol pa pong questions. So, I think may ilan na lang po dito, pero ito ay about po sa recent misinformation circulating online about what can you say as a geologist about the Laguna caldera and Apolaki caldera. Does this geohazard present a threat to the present situation? So I think parang kamalian din para sa inyo.
Oh, okay. Laguna Lake used to be a volcano. No, sumabog po siya. Kaya makikita ninyo yung mga pyroclastic po natin dyan na pinagpapatungan, like in Quezon City, yan po ay galing karamihan po sa Laguna Lake. Pero as far as the science is concerned right now, it's dead. Pansinin mo natin. Para po yung Tagaytay, yung Tagaytay, yung pinagpapatungan ng mga tao doon sa Tagaytay, nandun sila sa rin ng volcano. Kaya nga sinakabahan ako, bakit kayo nagsasarin? Kasi ang vulkan naman, hindi sumasabog sa isa. Sometimes dito siya sasabog, sometimes dyan siya sasabog. Kaya nga sinabi ng people dati, they discourage that. But for Laguna Lake, it's basically dead. Kasi nga, yung flank niya, you don't see it anymore, na-erode na siya. Kaya rin po, pag nag-intindihin nyo, pag namatay ang isang vulkan, nagiging po siyang geothermal. Target for geothermal energy. Pag medyo identify pa to, pag totally namatay siya, siya yung pwede potential resources ninyo for gold, silver, copper, potential resources, ganun po siya. Kaya marami tayong ganun klase ng mga resources. Now, as for Apo Daki is already, it's a dead. I'm very sure of that because my PhD thesis about reconstructing the tectonic evolution of the Philippines from 55 million years in the context of Southeast Asia evolution. Yung Apo Daki sinasabi tao dyan po doon ay Vietnam rise. So, hindi na po yan buhay. Patay na po siya. Okay? Kaya again, huwag kayong magpapasita ng Facebook basta-basta. No? Pumunta kayo sa tamang site. And I don't think naman Philippine Star, Enquirer, whatever, it would be spreading, false news naman po.
Okay. Thank you po, Dr. Lel. Meron pa po mga habol, meron lang po akong dalawa dito. I think it is comment for this today's forum. Una po dito yung hoping from Kagawad ng Barangay Ampid, hoping that PD 1067 will be strictly implemented. I think ito po yung pagaling sa water.
PD 1067 is Water Code of the Philippines. So yun nga po yung mga easements, pero at the end of the day kasi lahat po yan papasok sa planning po. No po. So if there's proper planning, kunwari nasa LGU po yan to enforce all these laws within their jurisdiction. So if you want to strengthen it, lalo na po tayo po sa barangay, part din naman po tayo, we can enforce it since batas po yan. But everything has to be part of the plan po.
Thank you, Sir Allen. So, ang last po comment dito ay about sa mga copies po ng presentation. We will be distributing the PDF files po ng mga PowerPoint. So, I think ilagay na lang po namin sa Google Drive. And bigyan na lang po namin kayo ng link. May mga pakapon. Last one na daw po. So,
i-clarify ko lang, sir. So, kung may mga questions po na hindi masasagot while you're on the stage, pwede naman po lumapit during lunchtime po, if may open time po, para itanong po yung queries natin, kung hindi na po siya masasagot.
kasi pasadahan ko lang po ng basahin ko lang po itong huli. Una po ay Doc Greg, I'm glad because we have this kind of scientific forum on flooding. We heard some important facts about geohazards. I would like to ask what would be the strategic plan for our LGU officials in coordination with the DNR and other government agencies to address problems of flooding, whether natural or human induced. Second po, does the LGU with or notify the DNR officials where there are plans to improve or develop a certain areas regarding geohazards that may affect the concerned areas. So I think more on coordination with LGUs and DNR with regards to the geohazard and addressing problems and issues. So, and last po, with the current situation of the Upper Marikina Basin, what can the PAMB members to help and lessen the effects of the lower areas? And maybe we could conduct more comprehensive discussion related to these topics. These topics are very interesting, very few people knows about it. So, kami rin po on behalf of MGB, nagpapasalamat din po kayo sa pagdalo po dito sa ating scientific forum, kung saan nagkaroon po tayo ng two-way communication to discuss about the Marikina River Basin flooding related concerns. So with that po, may mga questions pa po kayo, kindly write it down po sa ating mga forms and we will be providing those to Doc Carlo and sa ating mga resource speaker para po sa kanilang para sa kanilang answers. So for now, we will now we'll now close formally close this program. I will call our Chief of Geoscience Division of MGB4 Calabarzon, Sir Mike Hankins.
As I promised earlier this morning, we're going to have a very productive half day. Nag-agree ba kayo? Natutunan natin? Marami tayong natutunan ngayong araw na to. So once again, let us thank Dr. Carlo Quillano of MGB Central Office, and Sir Alan Manlas and Ma'am Ariane Espina for their very beneficial contribution dito sa ating seminar ngayon. Hindi ko na po pahahabain, at tayo yung nagkakaroon ng lunch after this. Pero tuwan-tuwa lang ako habang naririnig ko palagi yung sinasabi ni Doc Carlo na adaptation. Napakalaking bagay po nito, napaka-importante. It doesn't have to be, kumisan yung adaptation natin, it doesn't have to be a big effort. Pwede we can think out of the box. Yung mga simpleng adaptation na pwede natin gamitin kahit lang sa barangay level natin. So let's think about it. Tanggapin na po natin. Lalo na kung sitwasyon sa lugar natin ay binabaha po talaga. So ang pinakamainam po ay, katulad ng sabi ni Dr. Ricardo, ay mag-adapt according po to sa sitwasyon natin. So yun lang po. At isa pa lang po, gusto ko lang po i-highlight yung geohazard maps namin. Lalo na po sa mga kasama natin sa LGUs. Ito po ay napaka-importante planning tool para po sa inyo. It can prepare economic activities kasi isang tingin lang ng investor dito, alam niyo na kung saan siya hindi maglalagay ng kanyang pabrika o kung saan siya maglalagay ng mga deep wells para doon sa kanyang pabrika. So, in short, it is a very good planning tool for you to use. Kaya tama po yung ibinigay namin pagtuturo sa inyo ng geohazard map interpretation para po talaga ma-maximize ninyo sa inyong comprehensive land use planning. Ito po mga mapa ng MGB. Maraming salamat po at sa muli pong pagkikita natin sa mga susunod na forum. God bless you.